Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto News. If you guys are enjoying these videos, make sure you support the channel by pressing the like button and subscribing, and also make sure you check out my second and other channels, links in the description below. Today, the question of today is, what do you think will happen to the prices of XRP and Bitcoin and whatnot during the halving or just before it? Do you think the prices will go up? Do you think we'll stay stagnant? Do you think we'll pass 10K? Let me know your opinion in the comment section down below because I'm really interested in reading about it. Now, the first tweet of today is a really cool one, and it comes from Martin Falk. He says on Twitter, "What I think is going to happen and what XRP's role is going to be, I would love your feedback." You can get the PDF version here, and you can see a very, 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 very interesting PDF sheet. It's a big one, but it's a good one, and I recommend you guys all to go and check it out, possibly even download it for yourself, because really a lot of work was most likely put into this, so we all appreciate that. This theory is largely based on the book The Death of Money by James Rickards, but adapted for the participation of crypto assets. And if you like this, please do read his book, as they explain in far greater detail minus the crypto assets. I've actually read the book, and I guess it might help. The common reset of the international monetary system. Gold realities, gold myths. Confusing about the role of gold arises because it's usually treated as an investment. I'm trying to zoom in, but this is the max I can. And is reported as such in financial media. Not a day goes by without a financial reporter informing her audience that gold is up or down on the day, and in terms of gold's dollar per ounce. And this is literally true. But is gold fluctuating, or is it the dollar? On a day that gold reported to be up 3.3% from $1,500 per ounce to $1,550 per ounce, it will be just as accurate to treat gold as a constant and report that the dollar is down from 1 out of 1,500 of an ounce of gold to 1 out of 1,550th of an ounce. In other words, $1 buys you less gold, so the dollar is down. This highlights the role of the numeraire of the unit of account, which is part of the standard definition of money. If gold is numeraire, then it is more accurate to think of dollars or other currencies as the fluctuating asset, not gold. So basically, let's say for example, 80, I think it's 80, probably especially 85, we think of a global world currency in which we actually measure most of the other things in. And right now it's the US dollar. I believe in 1620 or so, something like that. It used to be, the Dutch coin, whatever we had back then, might have been gulden or florijn. I don't quite remember because I'm not that old. And that's most of the time what we measure most of the global like equities or these things in, and that changes all the time. Every 80 or 85 or to 100, depends a little bit, years. Now, gold into SDR, and you might be wondering, well, what's that about? Gold price, non-deflationary price of gold in a global backed SDR standard. Tier 1, the SDR, which will be defined as equal to specified weight in gold. And then moving over, United States into the central bank digital currency, the Eurozone into the central bank digital currency, Japan into the central bank digital currency, China into it, and the United Kingdom into it. I guess that part is pretty obvious. And other leading economies, same thing, as said right there, into central bank digital currencies. That's the tier 2. And it says each local currency unit will be defined as a specified quantity of SDRs. Since local currency is defined in SDRs, and SDRs are defined in gold, by extension, every local currency will be worth a specified weight in gold. Finally, since every local currency is in a fixed relationship to SDRs and gold, each currency would also be in a fixed relationship to one another. Because everyone is connected to it, it all connects to each other. That actually makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Now, determination of fixed rates. At the rate which central bank digital currencies can convert to one another could be determined every 4 years based on the weighted average of banks' foreign currency transactions during the last 12 months prior to the fixing date. The 4-year period would give markets sufficient time to adjust and consider the implications of the new system, and the 12-month averaging period would smooth out the short-term anomalies or market manipulation. Participation. In order to participate in the new gold SDR system, a member nation would have an open capital account, meaning that its currency would have to be freely convertible into SDRs, gold, or I guess every other currency possible out there of the participating members. Actually, that makes a lot of sense as well. And that moves over into XRP as the bridge currency. XRP would act as a bridge between digital central bank currencies. Now it's all starting to make sense and kind of link back to each other in a big loop. Which themselves lack interoperability. And then the price of XRP. XRP will be defined as a specified quantity of SDRs, just like the local currencies, which again makes a ton of freaking sense. Other markets. Global markets in oil and other natural resources would now be priced in SDRs rather than dollars. So that's actually, again, another really interesting thing to think about even. Like, I'm just... Wow, I'm thinking right there. That would actually be really kind of interesting. But yeah, let's read it again. Global markets in oil and other natural resources would now be priced in SDRs rather than dollars. The financial records of the largest global corporations such as IBM and Exxon would be maintained in SDRs, and various economic metrics such as global output and balance of payment accounts will be computed and reported in SDRs. And finally, an SDR bond market would develop with issuance by sovereign nations, global corporations, and regional development banks, and with purchases by sovereign wealth funds and large pension funds. It might be intermediated by the largest global banks, such as Goldman Sachs, under IMF supervision. And by the way, if you're wondering what does SDR mean, it stands for Special Drawing Rights, and special drawing rights refer to an international type of monetary reserve currency created by the IMF in 1969, I think so. Now, money supply. Let's move over into money supply, or actually first we should go for China, I guess, here, because that was what participation led into. This should not be a burden for the United States, Japan, the Eurozone, or others who already maintain open capital accounts, but it could be an impediment for China, which does not. However, China may find the attractions of a non-dollar, gold-backed currency such as the new SDR sufficiently enticing that it would open its capital account as broadly as possible. Wow, that's again an interesting theory. China's gold deception. Once again, we find ourselves looking at China. It seems absurd to posit that the international monetary system could be reformed without major participation by China. Well, that's pretty obvious. A good chunk of the global economy relies on China, and China is also now one of the kind of keystones working with CBDCs. I think it's because they want to revolutionize and they don't want to be last. They don't want to give US this advantage. And also, crypto is really quite big in China, and I believe they want to kind of keep it that way. So they're really kind of first in this new revolutionary area, which I think is pretty interesting. The world's second largest economy, third if the Eurozone is viewed as a single entity. It is known, but not publicly disclosed, that China has a far greater gold reserves than it states officially. In a revised alignment, China would join the Gold Club with a 2.7% gold to GDP ratio, equivalent to Russia and the United States, and comfortably above the global average. Although it is rarely discussed publicly by monetary elites, the increase of China's gold ratio has actually been occurring in the recent years. When this gold rebalancing is complete, the international monetary system could move to a new equilibrium gold price without China being left behind with only paper money. The increase in China's gold reserves is designed to give China gold parity with Russia, the United States, and the Eurozone, and to rebalance gold global reserves. The greatest risk to China in the near future is that the inflation will emerge in the US dollar, or I guess in the United States US dollar, before China obtains all the gold it needs. That again would make everything a lot more expensive and annoying. However, once China does acquire sufficient bullion, it will have a hedged position because whatever is lost to inflation will be gained in higher gold prices. At that point, China can give a green light to US inflation, and they really shouldn't care that much, and actually it should be a positive thing for them. This move toward evenly distributed gold reserves also explains central bank efforts at price manipulation, as the United States and China have a shared interest in keeping gold price low until China acquires all of its gold. Because again, if China doesn't have all the gold they want, they don't want US inflation. They're trying to keep it down there. And once China does have it all, they have a benefit in the gold price going up, but they also have a benefit in US inflation coming, which is a little bit of a circle again. Now, what are the role of the central banks? Discretionary monetary policy would be reserved to national central banks such as the Fed and the ECB, subject to the need of maintain fixed rates to gold, SDRs, and other currencies. Let's move over into an echo of the old Bretton Woods system. The percentage of physical gold backing the currency issues could be increased or decreased from time to time if needed. However, central banks participating in the system would be required to maintain the fixed gold price in their currency by acting as buyers or sellers in physical gold. And any central bank perceived as too easy for too long would find citizens lined up at its doors and would be quickly stripped of all of its gold. IMF gold swap lines backed by other central banks would be made available to deal with this temporary adjustment requirements, an echo of the old Bretton Woods system. These gold markets operations would be conducted transparently to insist confidence in the process. And now the monetary policy, which reads, the IMF would resort to discretionary monetary policy through the unsterilized creation of new SDRs only in extraordinary circumstances and with approval of a supermajority of IMF members participating in the new system. Given these constraints on the creation of the new SDRs, the system would launch with the SDRs as an anchor and unit of account, but a relatively small amount of SDRs in existence. The combined base money supplies of the participants would constitute in the global money supply as it does today, and that money supply would be the reference point for determining the appropriate price of gold. Emerging powers. Importantly, the IMF would have emergency powers to increase the SDR supply with the approval of a supermajority of its members to deal with the global liquidity crisis. But SDRs and national currencies would remain freely convertible to gold at all times. That's actually a necessity if this is the case. If citizens had confidence in the emergency actions, the system would remain stable, and if citizens perceived the money creation was occurring to rescue elites and rentiers, a run on gold would commence. A little bit of an automatic save for the people. These market signals would act as a brake on abuse by the IMF and central banks, and in effect, a democratic voice mediated by market mechanisms would be injected into the global monetary affairs for the first time since the First World War. I actually don't know too much about that one. In effect, a democratic voice mediated by market mechanisms would be injected into global monetary affairs for the first time since First World War. I can't confirm. I don't know about that part. But he says so. He might have done his research, but I can't confirm. Fractional gold reserves required. Austrian school economics insist on 100% backing, but this is not strictly required. In practice, the system requires only enough gold to supply anyone with a preference for physical gold over gold-backed paper money, and adequate assurance that the fixed gold price will not be changed once established. These two goals are related. The stronger the assurance of consistency, the less gold is required to maintain confidence. Historically, gold standards have operated successfully between 20 and 40% backing relative to the money supply. Given the abandonment of gold in 1914, 1931, 1971, a high figure will be required to engender confidence by justifiably cynical citizens. For illustrative purposes, take 50% of the money supply as the target backing, which is already a huge amount, but okay. The United States, the Eurozone, China, and Japan as the participating economies, global official gold holdings as the gold supply, and M1 as the money supply. Dividing the money supply by the gold supply gives an implied non-deflationary price of gold under a gold-backed STR standard of approximately $9,000 per ounce, which is really an interesting part. So basically, I believe what he did right now, because I don't remember the book that well, what he just did here is get the theory out of James Rickards' book with the death of money and why you don't really need, like for example, a dollar in that sense. Everything can be related back to gold. He took that approach and actually try to fit in traditional crypto, I guess together with the CBDCs and with XRP to make it a whole running system of just pure amazingness. Would this ever work in reality? Well, most likely not anytime soon, because this requires so much confidence in each other, in the sense of we all need to agree on one thing, and that normally takes a couple of decades to occur. However, it is something that could ever happen, and it's something that would be very, very nice if it were to happen, because we get a unified kind of world, we get a unified place. However, I think a lot of people are also opposed to a whole world currency, and I'm talking about a lot of these big regulators, a lot of these big diplomats. I would say they might be against all these things, or even pegging things more to gold through SDRs. Yeah, I'm kind of against the real utilization of this plan. However, or no, I'm not against like that we should utilize it. I'm like against that this would be possible, right, to do. In theory, it sounds amazing. In theory, it's definitely possible. However, in practice, I think it would take a very, very long time before everybody can agree to such a thing. However, I guess as CBDCs become more popular and all countries are starting to look into it a little bit more and more and more, it might be a lot less long than another couple of decades. It might actually be a little bit faster. But it's just how quick all these countries can really, I guess, move over to crypto, and how well they can all communicate with each other, because that will still be a very big part of it all. Because I guess even though they don't need a connection with each other, as you can see right here, they all can be separate entities. It doesn't really matter. Everything can be done through the bridge currency XRP. I think they would still need mutual trust to kind of have everybody hold their own agreements. And like, for example, right now the U.S. And this like the China gold situation, like all those things will happen on a much bigger scale, I believe, which again is something we should think about. However, I think that's all like a next stage problem. And what I'm trying to say there is, like, for example, that China right now, they're trying to achieve or have, how would you say that, accumulate more gold, right? And for that, it's better if the US dollar is low, at least that the inflation rate is low, and the dollar price is low as well. Why? Because if it were high, then the dollar price would, or no, actually the gold price would go up as well, meaning that China will have to pay more for it, which is not that nice. So they want to keep it low, and once China has enough, they can let that go. But that will happen on a much bigger scale afterwards, I believe, because everybody will want to have more real gold, right? I don't know too much about how that would work with the real gold and where it will be laid. But I guess I'm just going to have to look into it a little bit further. It's a very interesting theory. Very, very cool. Going to give it a like and a little bit of a retweet as well. If I can zoom out a little bit again. Stupid Twitter. There we go. So I recommend you guys all to quickly check it out as well. It comes from Martin Falk. Really, really amazing. Really, really interesting. And XP Demi says here, what is the reserve currency according to this XRP? And this says google.lk. Where's LK? Shanghai gold boss wants super sovereign currency for post-crisis times. That was something from like a little bit ago, like a week ago. Martin Falk says the super currency would be the SDR, but instead of being backed by a basket of reserve currencies, it would be backed by gold. And again, that's changing the standard reserve to gold is basically the whole plan. And as I said before, reserve currencies change about every 80 years or so, 85, maybe 90. You can look it up, just type in global reserve history or something like that, and you'll notice it changes every once in a while. And right now, I believe the dollar has been there for 95 years or so. Again, don't quote me on these numbers. I've been working with too many numbers the last day or so, and I have no idea if it's 85, 95, or 105. You just look it up. It's really, really simple. And XRP would then be the bridge between digital central bank currencies, which is a little bit of an underlying layer. But again, that would be really kind of strange and amazing in that sense. Again, how doable is this? Pretty doable in the sense of we all know they don't trust each other. We all know they won't link up with each other. So we're going to need a bridge currency like XRP. And for that perspective, it's very well placed. However, again, getting to that point is another whole deal entirely. All right. Hot Pockets asked, would it be true that then XRP would also have to be fixed price, say, for example, 1/1500th of the gold-backed SDR? Well, in theory, we can value it that way. That's a possibility. Martin Fox says as well, that is my thought exactly. XRP will be defined as a specified quantity of SDRs, just like the local currency. So again, one of the standard would just be done by the global reserve currency. In that case, that will be gold. Yeah, I guess it's pretty interesting and pretty simple as well. Pretty good to understand. Pretty good. Because there's nothing really uncertain here. I think I get the full story. Is there any other cool questions in here that we should cover? What do you see as 1 to 1500 ratio? That example is just to clarify that it is not the value of gold that changes, but the value of the dollar. You can ignore those numbers. In the system, the price of gold would have to go up a lot. You'll be looking at around 9 to 10K per gold. And I guess those are the most important questions that people have been asking. And yeah, all right. I wanted to add a couple of other pieces of news and things, but I guess this was enough for today. Really interesting video, I think, already because of Martin Fox's efforts here. And again, massive shout out to him because I'm so intrigued. I'm almost at a loss of words, guys. I'm really astonished. But again, a couple of really cool videos coming out today, and I also launched a new channel on YouTube called 5 Minute Crypto. I'll link it in the description below, but I really recommend it to check it out. It's just going to be daily uploads on some crypto news, but then kind of summed up in just 5 minutes to make sure you can watch and go on with your day. But see you guys again in another crypto video. Take care, everybody, and have a very nice day. Enjoy your week.